Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Marta. I come from Norway and I love makeup, especially indie makeup and sparkly makeup, so it's just fitting that today's video is gonna be about Looxi Beauty and their newer shadows. And I will get more into it right after the intro, but Looxi now has a lot of super sparkly shadows and I haven't used them or like bought from them in quite a bit, so I was just super curious about how their shadows are now. So I'm doing some swatches, I'm doing some comparisons, so if you're interested in seeing all that, keep watching. So just a little bit of background around Looxi and my relationship with the brand. I started purchasing Looxi, I don't even know which year it was, maybe 2016, 17. It was like in the very beginning of the indie eyeshadow days, and they were my first indie love. I just love their shadows so much. I have a huge palette just filled with their shadows, and you can see they have so many beautiful colors. They have a lot of sparkly shadows and I have some real dips in a lot of these. So I was so in love with this Looxi. They were my favorite brand for a long time, and I remember that they released a Christmas collection, and I remember the photos being like just regular shadows, but when I got them they were just so beautiful, and there were just so many sparkly beautiful duochromes there, which I just did not anticipate just by watching the photos. Then there was a butterfly collection, I don't remember the exact name, I think it might have been like Butterfly Kisses, and those shadows, although they are like duochrome, they looked super intense and shifty on their website, but when we got them, almost all of us were so disappointed because they just weren't that special. I have some of them here, it's in the bottom, so they're not bad at all. It's just according to the photos they didn't look anything like them, so it just ended up being such a letdown. And so since that release I just haven't bought anything from them because I wasn't sure if I could trust the photos on the website, and I just heard people saying that the newer shadows, they were just creasing, they were not a good formula, and I think that was a few years ago now. I think it might have been like in 2020 or something, but now I've just been seeing them here and there on Instagram, and I just thought that they looked so beautiful, so I was like, I need to give them another chance. But the negative part now is that they don't ship internationally, so when I was making an order with a forwarding service for some other shadows and makeup stuff too, I was like, I need to order some Looxi shadows, and that's how I got these. So I'm sorry if you're an international customer, but you won't get your hands on this unless you get someone to send them to you or you use a forwarding company. And I think that really sucks, but I still really wanted to try them, so I just figured why not pick them up. And the shadows are so cheap. They're $2 each when they're on sale. If not, they're on $3. And I think that's the cheapest that it gets from indie brands, apart from maybe Glam Shop when they are doing sales. At least some of their shadows are extremely cheap, like maybe even under $2. But now I'm just so excited about these shadows, and I do want to shout out Kathryn B Beauty here on YouTube. I will link her YouTube channel down in the description box so that you can find her, and she does a lot of content on Looxi Beauty. I just wish that I had seen it before I placed my orders because I probably would have ended up picking up even more. She has a lot of video on it, so I just really recommend you to check that out as well. But I just want to say that Looxi Beauty now with these shadows, to spoil this whole video, they're amazing. But I want to get into the swatching now, so let's get started. So here is that first row, and I personally love these kinds of neutrals. They're perfect for fall, and they're a little bit different than the regular shimmers, no, the mattes that you get in palettes and stuff. They just have something with their undertone. And then we have this one, Moth to a Flame, the last one. It looks so much better swatched out than it does in the pan, because it doesn't look like it's so shifty or shiny in the pan, but I feel like it's a very beautiful, wearable, duochrome shade. So pretty. So that's the first row. The first shadow of the next row is called Red Hot, and it's a more flaky textured shadow, and it has a very apparent gold to pink shift. So this one I'm very satisfied with. It's super pretty. So very shifty, as you can see. I will however say that, like, now that I'm building it, it is quite sheer and it has a lot of binder in it, so it's almost sticking better to my finger. But I did actually try this on my lid on top of the Mauve Beauty creams, and it didn't crease during like the 1 or 2 hours I was wearing it, so I guess that's a good sign, but it might end up creasing, I don't know. I have already also like extracted out some of the oils, so yeah, just a little note on this shadow. The next one is called Tequila Sunrise, and it's also a little bit more textured, and I thought this one looked very pretty, and it's more flaky, and it also has a little bit more binder, I think, than a lot of the other ones. So I'll just swatch that here. You see that it has a little bit less of a flaky texture than the previous one, but I can really feel that it's slightly squishy in the pan, and I think this was also one of the ones that I got the most binder out of when I was pressing them with paper towel on top. Next up is the shade Big Bang, and I was so excited to see this in real life because it looks so beautiful on their website, and I'll say it doesn't really disappoint because it's like a perfect glossy neutral with a kind of blue shift to it. And you can see it has that more of a peachy, almost mustardy base to it, and it shifts like blue to purple. I think it's so pretty. So that is a Big Bang, super shiny. Next up, it's Gingerbread, and this one is recommended by many. I think Kathryn B Beauty was mentioning this as her favorite if I'm not mixing it up with someone else, and it's very pretty. It's like a pink, but it's almost like a peachy pink, and it also has a very blue strong shift. Just look how pretty that is. So beautiful. Next up we have Hot Rod, not to be mixed with Red Hot, and this one is also more of a pink, but it's a kind of deeper peachy pink, and I don't know how it shifts. It looks pink but also a little bit like greenish blue or something. We will just have to see once I swatch it here. Oh yeah, that is like a turquoise almost to a, is it pink or purple? But that is also super shiny, very beautiful. So that is Hot Rod. The last one in this row is almost more of a purple base, but this was like the best row to place it in. This one is called Jawbreaker, and oh my god, you can definitely see that green shine. Ooh, it is so pretty. It's like the cooler toned, more neutral sister of Looxi Beauty Ube, I think. I feel like they would be a little bit similar, but this one is just a little bit more neutral, but you can see it's very pretty, very shiny, and I wasn't sure if I should pick this up, but I'm definitely glad I did because look how pretty that is. It's so beautiful. So that is the first row of only shimmers, and I hope we can focus a bit, although you do definitely see the colors and sparkles there as well. But these are very pretty. I feel like all of these are quite sparkly, and definitely the 2-3 first ones were the ones that felt the most like, what do you call it, like putty-like or gel-like, but I think that if that's an issue, you can always fix that by just pressing with something that is the similar size of the pan and some paper, and you will get out most of the binder. And if you need to take out even more, then you can always just use some alcohol to loosen it up, and once it's almost evaporated you can use the paper, because then you will, together with the alcohol, soak up the rest of the binder, or not the rest but more of it. But here you can see them a little bit more close up, and I'm of course using my phone to light on them so you can really see the shifts and the sparkles. Oh, these are really beautiful, you guys. I'm so glad I decided to try Looxi again because these are so stunning. For the third row we have Snickerdoodle, and this one I believe is one of their most popular shades. At least I've like heard the name many a times, and no wonder it's like a gorgeous one of those that you would think you have a lot of dupes for, but like a lot of these I feel like just have something unique to them, and that might be the case with this one because it's like that red brown blue kind of duochrome, but I think it's gorgeous and I can like never have enough of these ones. So that is Snickerdoodle. This one is called Suopersonic, and I hadn't really heard about that, but I saw it on their website and I was like, I think this looks like a very like smoky deep taupe that I really wanted to have. So I'm curious to see like all the shifts in this one. Yeah, it's definitely like a grungy taupe. At least that's what I'm seeing in the monitor right now. It looks like it has a little bit of like, is it a purple or pink shift? Wow, that is very pretty though. Very grungy and beautiful. So that is Suopersonic. This next one I was very excited about. This is like one of the ones I was the most intrigued by. It's called Chocolate Cherry, and it's also one of those grungy, taupey, silvery shades, but this one I believe has some kind of pink shift to it. And I think that's correct. I can see it a little bit there. And it's a little bit warmer than Suopersonic, and I think it's also a little bit lighter, as you can see, but that is such a gorgeous neutral shadow. I feel like this would be just super pretty as a one and done look, to be honest. So that is very beautiful. So that's Chocolate Cherry. Next up we have the shade First Class. So we're getting into the more green toned ones, but this one, I feel like it has a little bit of a purplish, but like muted purple base. Wow, that is very interesting. It looks a little bit less textured maybe than the others. Yeah, it definitely swatches a little bit finer, like a finer particle size. But that's also a very beautiful, more neutral leaning shadow, but I do see this green to blue shift, I think. So that is also very pretty. So that is First Class. Next shadow is the shade Joker, and when I first got my package, this was on the top and I was like, what is that? Because it looked so beautiful. It has a slightly bluish grayish base, but a warmer pink to orange shift, I believe it is. Or it actually goes to green too, as you can see there. So I think this one was just very surprising to me, and I thought it looked really beautiful. And this is also like a one and done kind of shade. Just look here, you can see that more pink orangey shift, and here you can see the more green shift. This is so special. I don't think I have that much similar shades to this. So that is Joker. The last of this row is Dark Side of the Moon, and online I was like, wow, I really need this because it looked like the kind of black-red multichrome. But then I saw some swatches on YouTube and I was like, wow, that is not that at all. It looks so much sheer. But then when I actually got it, I was like, this is very beautiful and grungy. So I'm not mad that I have it at all. And you can see here it has a very apparent pink to goldish green shift. And it's kind of more like a gray-based multichrome, or charcoal-based, I guess. It's quite dark, but it's not completely black. So this is Dark Side of the Moon. So here is that third row, and I'm gonna take my phone out as well so you can see with the light coming from the side. This is like the more cooler toned, taupey row, I guess, and I'm living for it. I think these are so beautiful, and they all have like such particular shifts, especially those last ones. They have a warmer shift. The first ones are a little bit lighter and has more of a cool toned shift as well. But I feel like these are just perfect spicy neutrals, like Riley from Seeking Shifts would say. So these are just really, I don't know, I don't feel like I have that many shadows that are close to these. I mean, I might have some, especially from like Glam Shop, but I'm still very happy with these shadows, and they're just $2 on sale. That's so crazy. And I'm also just going to show them a little bit closer up like I usually do. So you can really get to see those shifts and sparkles in these shadows. You can see that this first class shade is not as textured, but it also has a lot of small sparkles to it. And those last two, oh, they're so pretty. Especially that Joker shade, it's so unique. I think the one it reminds me of is La Lune from Terra Moons, but I'm sure that is a little bit more colorful and maybe even more shifty and sparkly. But this is like a more maybe muted or subtle version of that, and I'm not mad at that. So that is the third row in my Looxi Beauty palette. Now it is the fifth row, and these are a little bit warmer again, but a lot of these are, well, they're all greens. This shade is Howl at the Moon. This one had a lot of binder in it, but I was able to press out quite a bit. Oh, that is so pretty though. I just love greens. I don't know if you can tell. But that is Howl at the Moon. That is so pretty. Beautiful green with, like, is that blue or is it just like, I don't know, it looks white to me. But that green shift is beautiful. The second shade here is Peacock, and I felt like this one looked very much like a yellow gold on other swatches. But this one doesn't look that yellow. So here is Peacock. So here you can see Peacock, beautiful, just a little bit deeper base than the previous one, but very similar kind of. You'd probably get quite the similar look with these two if you use a deeper matte as a base, but this one is a little bit more yellow than the previous one. So that's Peacock. Here we have Starburst. This looks like it has a more red base than the other ones. I don't know how it compares though. Like, I feel like they all look the same in the pan and when I have them on my finger, but then when I actually swatch them and look at them next to each other, I can see that they're different. Oh, this one was very, like, I'm not gonna say that it's like dry because it looks beautiful, but it was picking up a lot on my finger. But this one was Starburst. That is so pretty. I feel like they just look more intense when they get darker. Next up is Saltwater Taffy, and wow, this is so reflective. I don't know if you can see that as well as I can, but that's very shiny. Very deep base. I hope you can't hear all the noise from my upstairs neighbors. It's the owners of the house, but it's very loud here. We can basically hear everything going on. But this one looks definitely a lot more like, this is a gold to green shift instead of being like gold to more, I don't know, just shiny, sparkly, silvery almost. So this is more of a gold to green, and it has a relatively deep warm brown base. So that is Saltwater Taffy. The last three of this row are a little bit more blue toned, and this one is called Jaded. They're also a little bit lighter. Oh, that is very pretty though. Looks like an almost lime to turquoise shift. This looks like it could be a deeper kind of version of all those kind of turquoisey like serpents from Terra Moons. Looks like this could be like the same but just deeper. And that is just, I love the finish of all of these. They're like sparkly but not super sparkly, so they're just a little bit more wearable, I guess, and just so shiny and beautiful. So that one is Jaded. Next is Emerald City, and this is a little bit more turquoisey, slightly lighter I think in the base. Wow, that is so pretty. It has a very like golden green shift, and it goes more to a bluish green right here. Oh, that is so pretty. It almost looks like the base is more, like almost like the base is shifting too, because it looks more vibrant here on the side, but here it looks a lot more muted. But that is Emerald City. Last but not least, we have this one, which is Sour Watermelon. This is even more blue, I think, and we'll just have to see it next to the others. It's like a turquoise, I guess, a turquoise shade. And we'll see it next to this one. Yeah, it definitely looks a little bit more blue, and it has almost like a purpley shift here. So green to purple, I think, if I'm not completely mistaken. I don't usually use these kind of tones that are so cool toned, but we will see if I manage to when I have these. But that is Sour Watermelon. So here is the 5th row with all the names. We have a little bit more of a variety here. We go from some that are a little bit more neutral, then we have some very warm bases there in the middle, and then it's like very cool toned, almost blue down when it comes to Emerald City and Sour Watermelon. But they're very beautiful, and I guess these are a little bit more different than the other rows. And here a bit more of a close-up. Just look at all those beautiful sparkles. These are like the perfect neutral but colorful shadows, I feel like. And of course the bottom ones I would call colorful because they're like blue, so it doesn't really look that natural. But you can really see that pink shift on Sour Watermelon now with the lighting. And I felt like you could see that earlier as well, but you definitely see it better when you have lighting hitting from the side. So these are super sparkly and beautiful. For the very last row we have some really fun shades. So this is Margarit-ahh, spelled a little bit different. It's like a vibrant yellow but with a, I think it's like a green to pink shift, but yeah, I think it is a little bit pink, but it's mostly green. That is very shiny and beautiful though, so that is Margarit-ahh. The next one is a cute light green base like you can see here, but then it has like a pink to blue shift. And this one is called Dido. Ooh, that is so pretty. Oh, wow. It's almost more of like a purple than a blue, but it's very cool toned, and I love that bright lime green base. Wow, I really enjoy this color. That is very beautiful. So that is Dido or Dido, I don't know how to pronounce that. This one is called Peppermint Kiss, and it's like a minty base with a purple, I think, to pink shift. And this one looks quite sparkly, at least since the previous one was a little bit less textured. So you can see this one has a little bit more texture again. And it's just a much more cooler toned base than this one, which is very warm, but they do both have similar shifts. So this is like very purple. That is Peppermint Kiss. Here we have Morning Rain, which has a kind of deep green base, and then it has a very blue to purple shift. And I guess that green base, like, is it a little bit more blue toned? I mean, it is quite green. It's a very green base, but it's kind of murky and deep. Look at that shift though. That is so apparent. This is like, I feel like these are so special. Very special shades, and they're very beautiful. Reminds me a little bit of Rococo from the Glam Shop Rococo palette. But that is so unique to me. Very beautiful. That is Morning Rain. The next shadow is called Chili, and it's just very light blue. It's almost like an iridescent, but it looks very shiny. Looks like it has a purple shift. So let's swatch Chili here. Sounds like I'm saying chili like the pepper, but it's like chili like in cold. So that's that one. Nothing super special, but I think this one is really beautiful and easy to use if you just want to layer to have some very like shiny sparkles on top of your look, because this will almost look almost like glassy, I feel like. I also have some purples, so this is the shade Jelly, which has a kind of deeper berry purple base, but it has also a very blue shift. So here we have Jelly. I wonder if I might already have this one in my collection. I would have to take a look, but wow, this is very pretty. I don't know if this is like one of the newer ones or if I'm just mixing it. But I feel like they had something called Jelly or something before, or just something that looked a lot like this one. Maybe I'm thinking of the one that was called High Roller or something, because that looks a little bit similar to this, I believe. But it's a very pretty purple. This purple is a little bit more vibrant. It's called Once Upon a Time, and it looks a little bit more shiny too. It has a very blue shift, as you can see there, but it does also look like a very purple shift. Almost like here it almost looks royal blue. Like a royal purple, but I think this is a very beautiful purple shade. Ooh, yes, that is so pretty. Very shiny. It has almost like a turquoisey blue, to like, I don't know, is it purple or is it just blue? It's so hard to see for me. It is very beautiful. Last but definitely not least in this row is the shade Feels, and it's just such a beautiful shade. I've already swatched this and it's just stunning. So it looks a lot like Painted Lady, but it's not the same. Like they're not dupes or anything, but they're similar. I guess I should show that afterwards in the comparisons. Oh, so pretty though. I think I have to compare this with the shade Opera from Mika Beauty Shop too. But this is so beautiful, and it's just $2, so it's super cheap and so beautiful. So I just hope they hold up on the eye. I'm just probably repeating myself all the time, but even though they're cheap, it's like they do have to perform on the eye for them to be worth picking up. But look at all these special colors, they're so pretty. And here is the last row with the last colors, and wow, this is such an interesting row. We go from like the yellowy greens with lots of special shifts to the more purple tones, and they're all just so stunning. I really like this row. I feel like I have no duds in my orders, and that is really amazing. Here just a closer look so you can really see, for example, that pink shift in the first shade Margarit-ahh, and then the next shade Dido, which is so cute. And then those other shades, like Morning Rain here is just such a grungy and special shade. I almost didn't pick it up, but I luckily picked it up in my second order. I'm so glad I placed that so that I could have it here today. And the purples are very pretty, especially that last one. Oh, it looks so beautiful and very shifty and sparkly, just like I like my shadows. So that was the very last row, and now let's get going to the comparisons. For the comparisons here, I have first closest to the wrist, it is the shade Feels from Looxi Beauty, and I'm comparing it to Painted Lady, which is also from Looxi. You can see that they are a little bit different. Just think I need to turn down the lighting even more. So I actually prefer Feels because I feel like it has a little bit more contrast to it compared to Painted Lady. The next one is It's a Hit from Glam Shop, which is obviously a very shifty shade, as you can see, and it is more shifty than Feels, but they do have kind of the same shift. I think you can see the gold going to, well, I guess you don't see the green as much in Feels right now, but I definitely see a green there as well, and a little bit of blue. And then the fourth shade right here is Aurora from Glam Shop. I figured it was nice to just show the difference in texture as well, and I mean it is a little bit similar, I would say. So there you have also like a turbo glow to compare to the Looxi formula. And then over here we have the shade Jawbreaker from Looxi, and I figured I would just compare it to Ube, and honestly Ube is looking so boring right here, but I do really like Ube. It's a beautiful shade, and I think it just gets more justice when you use a glitter glue on it. But as you can see right here, this is Laser from Glam Shop, and that is actually fairly similar to the shade Jawbreaker from Looxi. I hope you can see all the shifts right there. So that is Jawbreaker, Ube, and Laser from Glam Shop. And over here I have Siren, this is the green one, and I wanted to compare that to, this one is Abracadabra, which I thought was so much more similar, but actually Siren has, Siren from Terra Moons, if I didn't say so, has a much more greener base, whereas this one, Abracadabra, does have a warm brown base. But I feel like you can see the Abracadabra shade has those blue sparkles in it, which is why I thought it might be similar to Siren, but it's not. But then I have some shades here, and here, this one is Corrosion by Cleona, by the way. I just figured I had to add that to the mix. But right here, next to Siren, we have the shade that is called Starburst from Looxi, which is incredibly beautiful. It's the one I used in my look. And another favorite of mine from Glam Shop, this is Satellite. And Satellite is basically the same as Corrosion, it might be a little bit less green, but it's still very similar. So I just figured that might also be nice to just see the difference in sparkle and texture, and I feel like it's not that big of a difference. It might just have a little bit more of a base to it. So that is Starburst, Satellite, and Corrosion from Clionadh, whereas Satellite is from Glam Shop. And over here we have Emerald City by Looxi. Very beautiful shade, and I compared it to Glam Shop Venomous so you can see the difference in texture there. It's still super sparkly. Venomous is very sparkly. But Venomous does have a lot more shifts, and it's a different kind of base. As you can see here, it's more green, whereas Emerald City has more of that turquoise base. As for the last comparisons here, I wanted to compare Peppermint Kiss from Looxi with Duchess from Clionadh, and then it's Ripple over here. So you can just see that they're very similar when it comes to the texture. I just feel like maybe the Clionadh ones are a little bit more shifty, especially that Duchess shade over there. Ripple, I don't feel like is that shifty, but to each their own. But here you can at least see the difference. So those are like the first comparisons, and I think I have some more, so I will just clear my arm and be ready for the next ones. I was gonna see if Chocolate Cherry, which I have here, was similar to some of my Glam Shop shadows, but honestly I don't find anything similar. This one is Lilac, which is just quite different. It does not have that pink shift, and it has a warm base. And this one is called Crystal. It's one of the marble shades, and it just doesn't have those shifts. It's just like very shiny and foiled. So Chocolate Cherry is actually very unique in my collection, I believe. I will first show you these swatches, but I also have a ton on my arm right here. But here we have Tucana by Divina, and I compared that with Red Hot, and they're basically dupes, but you can definitely see a difference in formula, and I do feel like Tucana is a little bit more just dense and packed with sparkles, but other than that you can see they're basically the same. And then we have Offshore Mist versus Emerald City, which I already compared to one of the other shades. I just wanted to like compare with the formula of Divina from those new duochromes so you can see that. And it's not that big of a difference, I feel like. But obviously the shade is a little bit different in itself, because this is Offshore Mist and this is Emerald City, which has a little bit more of like a bluish turquoise undertone. Offshore Mist is a little bit more of a green shade but with blue sparkles, so it's kind of like an opposite kind of shift versus base. And then down here we have Margarit-ahh from Looxi with Sila from Divina. So there you can definitely see the difference in formula of the multichromes from Divina and the duochromes from Looxi, but the Looxi ones aren't bad at all. They're really beautiful. They're just a little bit more densely packed with pigment, I feel like. Not as textured, but still quite sparkly. So the first ones here we have Dark Side of the Moon, which did not look this patchy as soon as I swatched it, but that just means that it's maybe a little bit drier than other shades. But I compared it to Fanfares by Glam Shop right here. I think it might be discontinued, but they might still have a few left on their website. It's just to double check their website. But it's like the same shift, but Fanfares was one of the velvet shadows from Glam Shop, and those were a little bit more or less sparkly, and I don't know, this one just didn't have like too much base, as you can see, but it has a like gray base, and I do find it very beautiful. But Dark Side of the Moon is just a little bit more textured and a little bit stronger in the shift. And the two next ones we have here, this one is the shade Tequila Sunrise from Looxi, and I compared it to Lacy Pink from Glam Shop, which is a Turbo Glow, and I find them to be relatively similar. I don't know if you can tell that right here at least, but I do find the Turbo Glows to have a little bit less of a base than the Looxi ones. So yeah, you can see Looxi and Glam Shop. I will leave all of the names in the like in the order that I swatched them down in the description box too, just for easier way to find all the names if you don't want to like play back what I say all the time. But the next one I have here, it's Big Bang. Wait, Big Bang, it's here. And I compared Big Bang to the shade, I think it's called like Warm Cool or Cool Warm. It's called Zimno Ciepli in Polish. And I did find those two to be relatively similar too, but again, the Looxi ones has a way much more apparent base, as you can see here. And I just love that almost mustardy base that Big Bang has, so I actually do prefer this one, but I do think that the Glam Shop ones are more like topper shades. And also to compare with Big Bang, I just added Asteroid because I know a lot of people have it, but it's a little bit different when it comes to both the base and the shifts. But I mean, on the eye, will it look too different? Maybe not. And then I decided to swatch Gingerbread, which I heard, again, as I mentioned earlier, is a favorite for many who have tried Looxi. And I just swatched that together with the Glam Shop shadow called Pink Topaz. And again, it's one of the Turbo Glow, so it's not as, like it doesn't have that much of a base. But I don't know, if you have one, do you need both? I'm not sure. They have a little bit of a different shift, so you just have to decide for yourself. And then we have here, I found these to be almost dupes. It's just that the Looxi one called Once Upon a Time, again, it's a little bit more opaque, but if you use this one from Glam Shop, which is called the Bestiak, I don't know the English name, I just have the Polish name because I bought it before they started putting the English name on them. But I feel like those are very similar when it comes to the sparkles and the shift. Maybe the Looxi one has a little bit more of a warmer base, but if I had this one and I had seen these dupes, I would have thought like, okay, I don't really need this one. And then we have Jeepers Creepers from Looxi compared to Zigzag from Glam Shop. And Jeepers Creepers doesn't have that much of a red shift like you can see with Zigzag, but it does have a very red base though. So that's kind of the difference with those, but it's definitely more of a green shade than Zigzag. And the iridescent ones here, this one is Chili. And then the other one is Cyclone from Glam Shop, which has a little bit more of a pink shift, as you can see there. But it's a little bit less blue as well. And here we have Hot Rod, which I compared to Glam Shop Velvet Shadow in Dream. That is one of my favorite of the velvets. It's so pretty. And those are fairly similar too. I almost prefer the Glam Shop one, I think. But both are very beautiful. I'm kind of running out of space on my arm, so I think I'll just swatch them like this, and I hope that's enough for you to see the texture and stuff. But I did mention that I wanted to swatch Terra Moon's La Lune together with Joker from Looxi, and they're a lot more different than I thought. I mean, they are kind of in the same color family, but Joker is much more neutral and gray toned and not as shifty or vibrant as the shifts in La Lune. So there you have those two compared, but I hope you can see like where I was coming from when I was thinking that maybe they're similar. And then here we have Peppermint Kiss by Looxi, and I wanted to compare that with Terra Moon's shadow here, which is called Moon Mist, and they're a little similar, but I feel like Terra Moon's is just, I mean, I should really swatch this, but I just don't know if I... Okay, so we'll just try to swatch this one. Peppermint Kiss and Moon Mist. So you can definitely see that Moon Mist has more of a blue shift, whereas Peppermint Kiss has more of a pink shift. But you can also see that the Moon Mist shade, it does shift to pink over there. So that's like the difference. And now I totally touched that one with a little bit of Joker. But I mean, there you can at least see the difference in texture and formula, I hope. Looxi is just a little bit smoother. And now for the last swatches. Just forgot that I mentioned Opera by Mika Beauty Shop and Feels from Looxi, but you can definitely see that Opera is just incredibly sparkly and shifty compared to Feels. So it's all depending on what you're after. These are going to look quite different, I feel like, on the eyelid. This is gonna look just a little bit more purple with a high shine, but this will have all the sparkles. And I have used this one in a look as well if you want to see how it looks on the eye. I think it actually was the video where I swatched all the Mika Beauty Shop ones, so it's just to search for Mika Beauty Shop Multichrome on my channel and it should pop up. It's also not that long ago. But I think that's the last of comparisons that I will do. I hope this was helpful, and I guess now I will just get to the outro that I recorded yesterday. I just want to say that I'm so beyond excited about these shadows. I definitely think they're worth picking up. They're so cheap and they're so special. So I hope that maybe my video with the swatches and the comparisons were helpful to narrow it down if you would need to, but I'm so glad I have all of these. They are some of my favorite shifts and I definitely love all of them. Now I'm so excited to hear what you guys think of these. I know a lot of you have tried them the last years as well and never really stopped buying from them. So I would just love to hear all of you guys' opinion, both if you have them or if you haven't. What do you think of the swatches that I made? How do you think they look? Just sound off in my comment section and we can have a little chat about it. But I do think that's actually it for this video. If you made it this far, then thank you so much for watching. And if you're not already subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button and maybe even the like button if you like the video. And hopefully I will see you in my next video. Bye!
Sit on my bed, I got nothing.